This is the story of how a legacy built by hand in a dusty garage became a blueprint for a revolution. It's a story for anyone who's ever been overlooked, underestimated, or told they didn't belong. If you're ready for a story about turning pain into power and vision into victory, you need to hear this. Subscribe to Black Journey and hit the bell so you never miss a story of resilience, wealth, and unbreakable dignity. The city slept, a sprawling beast of steel and glass, but Isaiah King was awake. At this hour, the only light in his penthouse came from the glow of the skyline and the single banker's lamp on his vast empty desk. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling window, a silhouette against the tapestry of a million other lives. A king surveying a kingdom he'd built from dust. His fingers traced the cool glass, but his mind was tracing something far more fragile. Memory. It wasn't the view of tomorrow's skyline that filled his eyes, but the view from a different window. 50 years and a lifetime ago. The journey never starts with $1 billion. It starts with a sound. For Isaiah, it was the sound of his father's hands, those great, capable hands sanding a piece of wood in their garage-turned-workshop. The rhythmic swish, swish, swish was a lullaby, a metronome measuring a dream. The air, thick with the smell of sawdust and sweat, was his father's cathedral. Elijah King could build anything, a bookcase, a toy boat, a hope. He'd look at a rough, knotted plank and see the smooth, beautiful thing hiding inside, waiting to be revealed. "You see this, Saya?" he'd say, his voice a low rumble. "Most folks see the knot, the flaw, the reason it can't be done. We see the potential. We see what it can become. That's our gift. That's our curse." Isaiah, all of 7 years, would nod solemnly, believing he understood. He didn't. Not yet. He understood the pride on his father's face when a client, Mrs. Gable from across town, clasped her hands in delight at the new dining table, a masterpiece of mahogany and love. He understood the crisp $10 bill she pressed into his palm for being such a good helper. But he didn't yet understand the other looks. The look from the bank manager when Elijah, back straight in his best and only suit, presented his business plan for King's custom cabinetry. The man's eyes, cold and dismissive, had scanned the meticulously drawn diagrams, the carefully typed projections, and then scanned Elijah himself, seeing only the color of his skin, a different kind of knot. "The risk is considerable, Mr. King," the manager had said, his tone implying the risk was Elijah's very existence. "We'll need more collateral, much more." They'd walked out of the bank, the dream feeling sanded down, smaller, but Elijah's shoulders never slumped. He just looked down at Isaiah and said, "They see the knot, son. We see the table. We'll just have to build it ourselves." And he did. He built it order by hard-won order in that sweltering garage, his hands growing rougher, the lines on his face deepening into grooves of determination. Isaiah learned the price of a dream wasn't just in dollars, it was in calluses and late nights, and the quiet, fierce refusal to be broken. He learned that dignity isn't given, it's built, piece by piece, nail by nail. The lesson turned from wood to flesh the summer Isaiah turned 16. He'd landed a job at a sprawling hardware store in the mostly white part of town, a coveted position he believed was a step up from his father's workshop. He was eager, knowledgeable, fueled by a lifetime of learning about grain and joinery. One afternoon, a flustered man in a golf shirt waved him over. "You, boy, I need help with some deck sealant. What's the best for redwood?" Isaiah launched into a detailed explanation, pointing out the pros and cons of 3 different brands. The man listened, nodded, and said, "All right, go fetch a gallon of the mid-grade one and bring it to the register, and be quick about it." He turned and walked away. Isaiah stood frozen, the word fetch echoing in his ears, reducing his expertise to the obedience of a dog. He was no longer Isaiah, the knowledgeable young man. He was Boy, the help. Later that week, he was stocking shelves when he heard 2 women whispering. "He's actually quite bright," one said, as if surprised a black teenager could possess intelligence. "I know," the other replied. It's a shame. A shame? A shame that he was bright? Or a shame that his brightness was confined to the lumber aisle? The cognitive dissonance was a constant low hum, the pride he felt in his capability clashing violently with the reduction of his identity to a stereotype. He was a walking contradiction, too smart for his station, too black for their comfort. The final blow came on a Friday. The store manager, a man named Mr. Henderson, who had always been politely indifferent, called him into the back office. Isaiah, your work is good, but we've had complaints. Isaiah's heart sank. Complaints? From who? About what? It's not about what, son, it's about how, Henderson said, avoiding his gaze. You're a little too confident. You make the customers nervous. You need to dial it back. Be more agreeable. The message was clear. Know your place. Dim your light. Sand down your edges until you are smooth, unthreatening, and small. Don't be too much. Don't be too you. That night, he told his father, the words tumbling out in a torrent of anger and shame. He expected fury, a declaration of war. Instead, Elijah was quiet, his eyes holding a deep, weary sadness Isaiah had never seen before. They want to see the knot. Saya, he said, his voice soft. They need to, because if they admit that the wood beneath is just as strong, just as beautiful, then their whole world starts to crack. They can't have that. He placed a heavy hand on Isaiah's shoulder. So you have a choice. You can let them sand you down, or you can become the whole damn tree. So strong and so deep that no one can ever overlook you again. Isaiah quit the next day. He didn't do it with a shout, but with a quiet resolve that settled in his bones. He went back to his father's garage, but now he saw it not as a workshop, but as a laboratory for a new kind of blueprint. He wasn't just building furniture anymore, he was building a future. He started reading, not just about wood, but about business, about finance, about the systems that had told his father no. The anger didn't leave him. It metamorphosed. It became fuel. It became the relentless drive to understand the game so he could change it. He saw the flaw wasn't in the wood. It was in the tools, in the plans, in the very hands that were deemed unworthy to build. He would need new tools. He would draft a new plan, and he would make sure his hands were the ones to build it. The hum of the server farm was the new sound of Isaiah's cathedral. It was a world away from the swish, swish, swish of sandpaper, but the principle was the same: finding order, beauty, and function within raw, chaotic material. In this case, the material was data. The dream was Keystone Solutions, a software company he'd founded with 2 college friends in a dorm room that smelled of cold pizza and ambition, a far cry from sawdust and sweat. They had a revolutionary idea for supply chain logistics, a way to streamline complexity into elegant, efficient code. They were brilliant, hungry, and naive. The first venture capital meeting was a baptism by fire. Isaiah, as CEO, did the pitch. He was polished, passionate, the numbers rolling off his tongue with the same fluency his father had once described dovetail joints. The 2 partners in the firm, older white men in suits that cost more than Isaiah's entire wardrobe, listened with impassive faces. When he finished, there was a long silence. It's interesting, the first one said, steepling his fingers. But the market is crowded. What makes you think you can compete? The second one leaned forward, his eyes not on Isaiah's face, but on something just behind him. Tell me, Isaiah, who's backing you? I mean, really backing you. It's a lot for a young team to take on. The pause was microscopic, but Isaiah heard it. He heard the unspoken word. For a black team, the question wasn't about their business acumen. It was about their connections, their pedigree, their safety net. It was a question Elijah King had been asked a lifetime ago, just in a different language. They saw the knot. The rejection letters piled up. Too risky. Not the right fit. The market isn't ready. The excuses were a symphony of no. One potential investor even had the audacity to suggest Isaiah step down as the public-facing CEO. "The tech world can be conservative," the man said as if offering helpful advice. "Might be better to have a different profile leading the charge. You can stay on as CTO." The offer was a veneer, a cheap sealant trying to cover the rotten core of prejudice. It was the hardware store all over again. Dial it back, be less you. This time Isaiah's father wasn't there to give advice, but his words were etched into Isaiah's soul. "Become the whole damn tree." "The team you see is the team you get," Isaiah said, his voice cold and steady. "The CEO is non-negotiable." He walked out, the dream hanging by a thread. The darkest night came a month later. Rent was due on their cramped office. Their one remaining intern was working for pizza. His co-founders, their hope thinning, talked about pivot strategies, about dilution, about surrender. Isaiah sat alone after they left, head in his hands, the glow of the code on his monitor the only light. The weight was immense. It was the weight of his father's legacy, the weight of every no, the weight of every black dreamer who had been told the world wasn't ready for them. The doubt was a venomous whisper. Maybe they're right. Maybe you're not the face for this. Maybe the not is all there is. He almost listened. He almost picked up the phone to call that investor back. But then he remembered Mrs. Gable's delighted face. He remembered the feel of that $10 bill earned. He remembered the quiet, unyielding strength in his father's eyes. Surrender wasn't in his blueprint. He stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the city. They saw a risk. He saw potential. He went back to his desk and began to draft a new plan. If the traditional gates were closed, he would build his own gate. He spent the next 3 days calling every black professional, every community leader, every doctor, lawyer, and yes, every tradesperson with an investment fund he'd ever met. He didn't ask for charity. He presented a rock-solid business plan. He offered them a chance not just to invest in a company, but to invest in a principle, to be the foundation that the white institutions refused to be. The check started small. A few thousand from a dentist uncle, 5,000 from a former professor, 10,000 from a consortium of black nurses. It wasn't Silicon Valley money. It was something more powerful. It was community money. It was belief money. It was the materialization of a collective dream, built not by a single set of hands, but by many. They didn't see the knot. They saw the table. And with that foundation, Isaiah King built his first empire. The man in the penthouse finally turned from the window. The memory of that struggle, once a source of pain, was now a well of strength. He walked over to the desk, not to sit, but to pick up a single, small photograph in a simple frame. It was his father, Elijah, standing proudly next to the first check Isaiah had ever written him from Keystone's profits. A check that paid off the mortgage and expanded the workshop into a real, proper storefront. The journey from that garage to this skyscraper wasn't a straight line. It was a labyrinth of systemic barriers and quiet prejudices, navigated with a map drawn in resilience. He had built Keystone, sold it for a fortune that landed him on magazine covers, and then did it again and again, becoming a titan of industry. But the money was just a scorecard. The real victory was in the blueprint. He had taken the slights, the no's, the suggestions to make himself smaller, and he had used them as the negative space in his design, defining the shape of what he was determined to build. Not just companies, but opportunity. The Isaiah King Foundation wasn't a charity. It was an engine. It sought out brilliant, hungry young black entrepreneurs, the ones being told the market was crowded, or that they were the wrong fit. It provided not just capital, but mentorship, access, and the unshakable belief that had once saved him. He was building a forest, tree by mighty tree. He walked to the elevator, descending from his ivory tower not to escape, but to connect. His driver took him across the city, to a part of town the glossy magazines never featured. The car stopped in front of a newly renovated building, a sleek, modern structure of glass and steel that hummed with the same energy his first server farm had. A young woman, maybe 25, with dreadlocks tied back and eyes sharp with intelligence, greeted him at the door. "Mr. King, welcome to Nexus," she said, her voice brimming with a confidence he recognized. Her name was Chiamaka, and her company, built with a grant from his foundation, was developing AI to predict and prevent lead poisoning in old water systems, a problem that disproportionately plagued communities of color. She gave him a tour, explaining the technology with a passion that was its own kind of electricity. She wasn't dialing anything back. She was fully, utterly herself. He saw the investors he'd strong-armed into backing her, all white men in suits, now following, her with rapt attention, hanging on her every word. They didn't see a black female founder. They saw a genius. They saw a return. They saw the future. And Isaiah had forced their vision. After the tour, Chiamaka looked at him, her expression turning serious. "Thank you, Mr. King. Not just for the money, for seeing me. Most people, they look at me and they see a list of problems. You looked at me and you saw a solution." Isaiah smiled, a real deep smile that reached his eyes. He thought of his father, of the garage, of the sound of sanding. "Most folks see the knot, Chiamaka," he said, his voice soft but carrying the weight of a lifetime. "We see the potential. We see what it can become. That's our gift. That's our curse." He looked around the buzzing incubator, at the young black and brown faces bent over laptops, whiteboards, and prototypes. They were building everything from medical devices to video games to sustainable fabrics. They were building a new world. His journey wasn't just a story of personal triumph. It was a blueprint. It was a roadmap through the desert of doubt, a guide for turning the weight of history into a foundation for the future. He had not merely acquired wealth. He had seized the tools of creation themselves. The dignity his father had built with his hands, Isaiah now protected and multiplied with everything he had. He was the tree, now so vast and strong that he provided shade for a forest of other dreams to grow. The journey was far from over, but the blueprint was drawn, and it was being passed on. Look around you. Look at the world we're living in. It's easy to feel like you're on a treadmill running as fast as you can just to stay in place. Bills, responsibilities, the constant noise telling you what you can't do, what you can't have, who you can't be. It can feel like the game is rigged, the deck is stacked, and the doors of opportunity are closed before you even get your foot in. I need you to hear me, and hear me clearly. That is an illusion. It is a story sold to us to keep us compliant, to keep us in our lane, to make us accept a reality that was designed for us, not by us. But deep within you, there is a fire. It's that quiet, persistent voice that whispers, "There has to be more than this." That voice is not your enemy. It is your destiny calling. It is the echo of your ancestors who dreamed of a freedom and an agency they never got to see. They passed that dream down to you, not as a burden, but as a baton. Your current circumstances are not your final destination. They are simply your launching pad. Every single person you admire, every titan of industry, every visionary artist, every leader who changed the world, they all started with a dream that seemed ridiculous to everyone else. They faced the same doubts, the same fears, the same rejections you face. The difference wasn't luck. The difference was a decision to believe in the vision in their mind, more than the circumstances in front of their eyes. We are standing at the most unique moment in human history. The digital revolution has shattered old gatekeepers. You no longer need permission from a bank, a corporation, or a board of directors to build a legacy. The tools for wealth creation are being democratized right before our eyes. And at the forefront of this revolution is the most powerful, misunderstood, and opportunity-rich asset class of our generation: cryptocurrency. This isn't about getting rich quick. This is about participating in the greatest transfer of wealth and technological empowerment the world has ever seen. It's about opting out of a system built on exclusion and building a new one founded on transparency, inclusivity, and pure, unstoppable code. But you cannot go in blind. You need a strategy, not a gamble. This isn't about chasing hype, it's about building a foundation. Here is your foundational crypto strategy. Education before investment. Your first investment is not your money, it's your time. Understand what Bitcoin is: digital gold, a decentralized store of value immune to inflation. Understand what Ethereum is: a decentralized world computer powering a new internet, Web 3. Know the difference. Read, watch, listen. Become a student of the technology. The core and explore model. Core, 75 to 80% of your portfolio. This is your bedrock. This is Bitcoin, BTC, and Ethereum, ETH. They are the blue chips. They have the longest track records, the largest networks, and the strongest security. This part of your portfolio is for steady, long-term generational wealth building. You accumulate this consistently, regardless of short-term price noise. Explore, 20 to 25% of your portfolio. This is where you allocate funds to other promising projects, altcoins that you believe in after thorough research. This is higher risk but offers higher potential reward. Never risk more than you are willing to lose. Dollar cost averaging, DCA. This is your most powerful weapon. Instead of trying to time the market, which even experts cannot do, you set a schedule, e.g. $100 every week, and you buy regardless of whether the price is up or down. This removes emotion from the equation and smooths out your average purchase price over time. Consistency trumps timing. Self-custody is sovereignty. Not your keys, not your crypto. For significant amounts, do not leave your crypto on an exchange. Get a hardware wallet, like a Ledger or Trezor. This puts you in full, uncompromising control of your assets. It is the ultimate form of financial self-reliance. Long-term horizon. Zoom out. Ignore the daily charts. Think in terms of years, not days. The people who win in this space are those who understand the macro trend of digital transformation and have the patience to see it through. This is our chance to rewrite the rules. This is our chance to build the financial security for our families. That was once out of reach. This is about more than money. It's about ownership, autonomy, and power. The future is not something we enter. The future is something we build. And the tools are now in our hands. Let's build it together. If you're ready to take control and embark on this journey of financial empowerment, I break down these complex topics into simple, actionable steps. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video. Let's learn and grow together. If you are ready to walk this path, to educate yourself and empower our community, you need to be in the right circle. This channel, Black Journey, is dedicated to breaking down these complex topics into knowledge we can all use. We're building a community of learners and builders. Subscribe to Black Journey and hit that notification bell. Because this isn't just a channel, it's a movement. It's our journey to financial freedom, and we're taking it together.